Hello and welcome to Physical Therapy, a movie podcast. We are here every week, most weeks, talking movies, talking 4Ks, talking Blu-rays. This is a show about movies largely inspired by the world of physical media. We are back, Sam.
My God, has it been a journey, but we're here.
My name is Kurt. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Marty. The last time I saw you was in the flesh at your beautiful wedding.
That is true. Kimberly, our fantastic producer who is not here tonight, and I were wed. Kim is shooting a film in Copenhagen for the next 3 months. So Sam, shit's about to go off the rails on this podcast and in my personal life.
We're about to drink 150 more beers and just watch Panic Room.
Yeah, we've got some very fun ideas for episodes coming up that I'm really looking forward to. A lot of action movies. Sam, but first, today's episode was recorded a little while ago, and we're finally bringing it to the world. Kimberly had not yet left, so she'll be here for this conversation with Jack and Corey from the excellent podcast Cinema Possessed.
If people are looking for a Cinema Possessed episode to check out, I highly recommend the Silent Night, Deadly Night episode that Kurt and I briefly talked about this movie on an older episode, but Jack and Corey's dissection of that movie is phenomenal. It was a real treat having them on. They were great guests, and I mean, you'll hear it, but this conversation about Uncle Buck is awesome.
Yes, we are talking about Kino Lorber's recent 4K of the classic John Hughes, John Candy collaboration, Uncle Buck.
Probably my favorite of both of theirs.
Yeah, this is a beloved film. I can't wait to share this conversation. Their podcast is excellent. Please check it out. It is also not only about movies, but about physical media.
Yeah, this was a match made in physical media heaven.
Exactly.
The four of us getting, or with Kim too, the five of us getting together and all chatting.
So we're going to get right into it. Without further ado, please enjoy our conversation about Uncle Buck. We are honored to be joined by the hosts of Cinema Possessed, Jack and Corey. Welcome to the show.
Thanks,
Hi,
guys.
thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Guys, we're so happy you're here.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah, we're honored.
It's not often we get to talk about physical media with people. We have guests on our podcast and we talk the movies with them, but it's rare that one of those guests is into physical media.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm excited to talk Blu-ray.
Geek out
It's fun.
on special features.
Whenever we have a guest on, we'll kind of do the same thing. We'll ask about what their relationship to physical media is. And a lot of times people are like, well, I have a lot of books. Or, got
DVDs from like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to have some VHS tapes from the family, but
The first thing I want to ask you is about your collection. What is your collection like?
well, huge,
Large.
very big.
Pain
and-
in the asses when you have to move.
Oh.
yeah,
the
part of the
worst.
inspiration for doing our podcast is just like, God, we have so many of these. And as much as we feel like we do, like, you know, dig into the collection and rewatch stuff frequently, we were like, we should probably pare down on some of these and we should revisit them and see how we feel about them now. Because a lot of these, you know,
I would say half of the collection is like, maybe not half, but a huge bit of it is from Jack when he was in high school. Like
Yeah.
he still has DVDs, like
it's a lifelong,
OGs.
it's a lifelong collection. And yeah, it's like, let's see if we've grown out of any of this stuff, if we want to upgrade any of it, or if we just, you know, want to get rid of some of these things. And so that was sort of the impetus for
Yeah, at the beginning,
starting it.
it was like kind of sold to me of like, and this is how we'll like get rid of some of this stuff too. Because, you know, do we need
They're heavy.
multiple of these DVDs of
Yeah.
like Dumb and Dumber or
Right,
something?
right.
But the problem, it was like, oh, and we'll like if we don't like this DVD anymore, we'll give it away at the end of the episode. No, every time, that's maybe happened like
It happens,
a
it
handful,
happens.
but most times it's like, in fact, we're going to upgrade to the more expensive
Yeah.
version
Yeah.
of this
Yeah,
movie.
we're getting another one.
Turns
Yeah.
out I like these movies. You know, it's weird. We own them. We like them.
Wow, we started this podcast for the exact opposite reasons.
Truly.
Just an excuse to keep buying more shit.
buy
To buy more, to feel better about this. Yeah. Trust me, I take advantage of that as well.
It is. It's that thought where you can go, oh, well, it's for the show. I'll just get this for the show. We can do an episode
Absolutely.
of this. nightmare.
Done that many
Yeah.
times. Done it many times. I do try to keep a rule with it, because with the podcast in mind too, of like only buy things that I like. So I don't do a lot of blind buying anymore, which is something that I did a little bit more in the early days. And so there are a few things in my collection there's nothing in my collection that I've never seen, but there's a few things in my collection that I've seen only once. But that's a very few of them. And so my rule is like I don't buy unless I like and I know that I'm going to watch it again in my life. And so there are sometimes we've covered movies on the podcast where we decided at the end of it, like this movie, but I don't feel like I'm ever going to watch it in the context of this Blu-ray again. And therefore I don't feel like I need to hold on to it. Silent Night, Deadly Night was an example of one where it's like, I do enjoy the movie, but having seen it a number of times now, and when we did the full review for the podcast, I was like, I'm just never going to pop this Blu-ray in again. I'll see this movie at a repertory theater. If we go to a cabin and they got it on VHS, I might actually pop that in and watch that movie on VHS. That would be cool. But I just don't see myself putting in this Blu-ray again. So
I feel like we've been lucky to, living in LA because we have places like Cinephile and these like kind
Videotape.
of, like alt rental places that you can kind of do the more like obscure rentals, and then we'll decide if we want to buy from there.
You guys are truly an inspiration.
Truly.
I wish I could be like
these
you.
boys are not even close. They aspire to be you.
I've listened to episodes and it seems also very exciting. The blind buy feels very exciting to me.
Living vicariously through you guys. It's like I'm like, I would feel so good to buy that thing.
It does.
Even if I've never seen it.
But they're taking over our house. Like,
I'm sorry.
Surrounded.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I went and bought 2 movies today that I've never seen. I'm sure they're great.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll find out.
It's exciting. I know that excitement, man. I know that feeling.
great.
It feels good.
And what can I ask? Like the 2 that you bought today, was it the cover? Was it just the title? Like what made you decide like those 2 are coming home with me?
One is a movie called JSA, which is directed by who did Oldboy again? Park Chan-wook.
Park Chan-wook.
That's one of his early movies, I believe.
Okay.
Umbrella put it out, and it was sold out on their website, and I knew there was a copy of it at this store in Portland. So I went and picked that up just because I was like, I've wanted to see this, and now I feel like I'm going to miss out on it.
Yeah.
The other I picked up because I read about it online, and the cover's awesome, and it was $18. So I was like, you know what? Okay, that's fine. I can...
Yeah.
What was it?
Shout at the Devil. We talked about it on an earlier episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
Shout out to Devil.
Roger Moore and Lee Marvin.
Oh, cool. I can vouch for JSA. JSA is good.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited to see that.
I saw it a few years ago, and it's good.
Jack, it's just so funny that you bring up Silent Night, Deadly Night, because there's a theater out in Portland that shows it on 35 every December.
Oh,
I'd be there.
And I've seen it plenty of times, and it's great. I love it with the crowd. It's so fun.
Exactly, yeah.
And when Scream Factory put it out on 4K like a couple months ago, I'm like, well, I need to buy this. And then I bought it, and I was looking at it, and I had just seen it in theaters. And I was like, yeah, why? But also, I have to have this on my shelf for whatever insane reason.
When we covered it on the pod, I already had a Blu-ray from, maybe it was Scream Factory. I can't remember, but it wasn't a 4K. And I was like, if this goes well, I plan to upgrade to that 4K. Yeah. And I was a little surprised that my feelings about the movie had sort of like, not necessarily soured, but I just kind of came to the realization that I didn't need that upgrade.
Sure.
But if you ever come across the vinyl of the soundtrack, 100% buy it. It's the best soundtrack. Top 5 of all time.
All original songs created for the film. Original Christmas songs that are just as good as any Christmas song out there.
The song that like plays during the Toy Store montage is one of the greatest pieces of...
It's called The Warm Side of the Door. It's one of my favorite holiday songs of all time. It's a beautiful song. And I tried on that episode to reach out to the songwriter, and I found her email address, and I wrote her a very impassioned email, and she never wrote me back. I wanted to get her on and do a little interview and just, pick her brain, because she's never really spoken about it. I can't find anything with her talking about like how she got involved with the movie. And from what I can gather as her online presence, she's very religious, so she might not actually be proud of her involvement with the movie. But I'm proud of the work that she did.
proud for her.
Okay, a small personal story to share, if I may.
Please.
Are you guys familiar with a film called Red Dragon?
Yes.
Directed by Brett Ratner.
The Manhunter remake.
This was released on 4K from Kino at some point last year.
Yeah.
I've seen it down at Amoeba a few times and basically decided I have no interest in revisiting this movie, which was a movie that as a kid, when it came out, I was very interested in seeing, but I'm pretty sure is bad. And then the other day, I'm on Kino's website and I discover that the slip sleeve for Red Dragon is now out of print. And so what happens to my brain is that all I want in the world is Red Dragon on 4K with a slip sleeve.
Now this is important.
Orbit DVD is out of it. Amoeba's out of it. But I did a little research and discovered that Barnes & Noble had a copy of Red Dragon on 4K. And so I went there and there are no copies on the floor. Like it says there should be one in stock, but there's none on the floor. I asked for help. About a half an hour later, after searching the bowels of the storage area, they were kind enough to pull out a pristine slip-sleeved copy of Red Dragon, which I now own.
Wow. The fact that you found it at a Barnes & Noble.
Dude,
The sickness is out of control here. So
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a collector's item now, though, you know?
Good luck with that rewatch.
yeah. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Hey, it's got a good cast.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is good in the movie.
Oh, snap. I forgot he was in it.
Is Red Dragon awesome?
It isn't awesome.
I mean, I would say that it's maybe Brett Ratner's best film.
Oh.
It's not necessarily saying that's awesome. No, I take it back. Rush Hour is definitely his best film, but
Yeah.
maybe close
Definitely.
second is Red Dragon.
Yeah, what's up with Rush Hour? Is it tight?
It's good.
Oh,
it
shit.
used to be.
Rush Hour's good.
I haven't seen it in so
We haven't
long.
rewatched it in so long, though.
I
Is
just
it
know
still
I
good?
just know in my
Yeah.
heart it's still good, though. I just know in my heart.
I don't know. I don't know.
Speaking
Yeah.
of Kino Lorber, I know that we're probably going to talk about it a little bit because that's who did this, Uncle Buck today. But what do you guys feel about Kino Lorber? What are your general feelings about the brand and the company as a distributor?
Oh, baby. We are diehard fans.
Die Hard.
It took me a minute to get there.
Yeah.
When I first started buying movies from Kino, I was on a real cold streak. And Kino puts out a lot of great titles, especially titles
Great
from
titles.
the 90s and stuff that I grew up watching and loving. And so it's a lot of fun with the titles they put out. But they put out a lot of garbage as well.
Mhm.
And I was blind buying a lot of garbage from them. And I was like, wait a minute, does this label just put out known horse shit? And I'm like late to the party.
Just buying into it, gobbling up all their crap.
So it took me a minute, but now I'm way on board.
I just kind of can't get enough of their like mid-tier 90s, early 2000s releases. They just make me feel like I'm going to see something on opening weekend that I never had the chance to do because of how young I was at the time, and experience it like on a very sharp filmic transfer, like I'm making up for lost time or something. I just kind of can't get enough of their catalog. My expectations are always in the right place, I guess, is all I mean to say. But they have great movies too. But I'm also here for The Hunted or The Last Castle or that kind of thing. And I'll be honest, I kind of like the basic uniformity of their style. I like that they all kind of look the same. I like that it's just the theatrical poster as the artwork. There's kind of a no-frill charm to Kino, in my opinion.
You just picked up Sea of Love.
Uh-huh.
What's up with Sea of
Incredible. Oh my God.
Hell yeah.
Sea of Love is one of the sexiest movies ever made.
hell yeah.
Yes.
It's so good. The selection, I think, is spot on. Like the movies they choose to release are so up my alley all the time. The Snake Eyes, for example, was one that I was like, damn, that's for sure going to be one that I'm going to get. But here's the deal. I do kind of, especially if I'm upgrading. If I'm upgrading from what I already have, I need a little effort put in on them bonus features.
Yeah.
A little bit. And I agree. I appreciate the fact that they don't do anything super fancy with the covers, because more often than not, when it comes to like Scream Factory or Vinegar Syndrome, those are company, Arrow Video, they'll do their own sort of unique custom covers. 9 times out of 10, I don't really like them. I appreciate the effort, you know, and I like that they're trying to celebrate the film in a new way, and they hire an artist to come on. But more often than not, I'm taking out that slip cover and I'm flipping it over to the original image, baby, and I'm sliding it back in on the reverse side. So I don't really need that new cover, but it's like A for effort. I just kind of feel like Kino, I want them to put a little bit more effort in, because like that Snake Eyes one, I was excited about it, but then I looked and I was like, I know I'm getting a great scan of it, and that's exciting. That's going to be a massive upgrade on the DVD that I have.
Yeah.
But my DVD doesn't look bad. It really doesn't look bad. And the only special feature they include on there is a commentary, but it ain't from De Palma. It's from a film historian. And so and nothing else except maybe a trailer or something. And I'm like, sometimes Kino feels like they're just racing to be the first. Like, I know there's good Snake Eyes shit out there. Go mine. Let's get some of that good BTS that's definitely out there. I mean, especially with that movie, with all the oneers and
Can you imagine?
Incredible stuff. Get De Palma. Go contact Noah Baumbach and get him to get De Palma to come down and talk about that movie some more. I just want a little bit more effort sometimes, but I do in general appreciate Kino. All of those labels are doing the Lord's work of like keeping film alive and keeping it interesting and preserving. So I can't hate on them too much, but I do want them to just push themselves a little more. That's my Kino bitch sesh.
Fair enough.
I don't think you're wrong. I think there's a lot of incredible looking releases that are very bare bones in terms of any additional features.
Yeah.
And even to the point of sometimes, and we've talked about it on the show, but like it drives me nuts when I watch a movie and then go to the menu to pull up the trailer and there's not a trailer for the movie on the disc. It drives me absolutely crazy. It's just like,
it's the bare minimum.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, this movie came out in 95. I probably saw this trailer on TV at some time, but I don't remember. So like, I want to remember what it was like to advertise this movie, to see what they sold this movie on.
Yeah.
Fully agree.
And it's a fucking bummer.
Brett Ratner does have a commentary track on Red Dragon, just saying.
Hey, see, that's a plus. Gotta hear what he's got to say.
Yeah.
Well, he's not doing anything these days, so might as well.
What does your collection look like from a format perspective? Like, how does it weigh one way or the other? Is it more DVDs, more Blu-rays, 4Ks?
Mostly DVD, to be perfectly honest. And then it's probably like 60% DVD, 40% Blu-ray. And within that, of those 40% Blu-rays, it's probably, and I could be totally, I'm kind of a bad numbers guy, so I might actually be totally fucking that up. But within those Blu-rays, probably like 30% of those are 4Ks. Like I kind of jumped into the 4K thing late. I'm skeptical to jump into the new technologies with anything, but particularly with 4Ks, you know, to me, watching a movie or rewatching a movie, nostalgia factor is such a huge part of it. And I want to see the movie the way I have always watched it a lot of times. I want to re-feel the magic of like all the times in my bedroom that I watched Scarface. And I'm worried that when I put on the new 4K of Scarface, it's not going to feel like it felt when I watched it thousands of times.
But you also have Scarface in a crocodile leather briefcase.
Yes,
that's what it came in when he bought it when he was 10.
My Scarface, I definitely.
Well, you got to keep that.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way I'm getting rid of that. And I definitely do need an upgrade. But yeah, you know, sometimes when they throw all that sharpening on there and they do sometimes they recolor correct for 4K too, and that can bother me. And so I that's another reason why I don't like just jump out to buy a lot of them, is I kind of vet them first. I read a lot of the descriptions of them. I read reviews of them. I'll try to watch comparisons if it feels important to me that that it doesn't change too much. You know, like I just picked up The Cell on 4K.
Oh yeah, I just got that.
It's great. It's a really great release. And I vetted the shit out of it. Like I watched as much as I could.
But it came with a lot of special feature stuff.
Oh yeah, that's Arrow Video. And they do a good job. Like there's a lot of the labels, they go as hard as they can. And Arrow is one of those. They got 3 versions of the movie on there. And so there's And it's good. And you got the original on there as well as all these sort of new versions of it too. And once I realized like I at least have the version that I'm most familiar with and it looks like it always has, just cleaner and sharper and more detail. Great. But yeah, it is probably mostly DVDs. And what we find in the podcast too is that I'll pull out a DVD that I haven't watched in years, and it's from like the year 2000, and I'm like, oh boy, you never know. And sometimes we'll pop it in, and it will look like utter shit, and it'll be just an immediate. I gotta if I still like this movie, I gotta upgrade it because this looks bad. But a lot of times, I'm shocked at how well these DVDs hold up and how well they look. And sometimes I'm like, I don't need to upgrade. This looked just as good as I would needed it to look. So yeah, it varies.
But I like that you're preserving more of like your emotional response.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a time capsule that you're doing here. It's like, it's your youth that you're kind of like, oh, I remember this case and this popping this in and that feeling.
Yeah, I have history with it. Yeah, it's like we just covered Magnolia that's going to come out soon, and I have the New Line Platinum Series DVD of that, and that thing is banged up.
Yeah,
but I have so much history with that piece that I'm probably gonna upgrade, but I'm not gonna get rid of that. And to be honest, it looked great too. I probably won't upgrade to be anytime soon, at least. Yeah, unless like an Indicator or something puts it out. The New Line Platinum series are all good, and I believe there's a New Line Platinum series for Rush Hour. You're interested.
Well, I guess we gotta have you guys back for Rush Hour
here first.
Yep.
I'm hitting eBay right now.
Okay, let's talk Uncle Buck. Did you guys have a chance to watch Kino's new 4K of this?
I did not. I've been looking for it around Portland. I can't find it. So I just watched the original studio release Blu-ray of it.
We actually did. We were able to get first we watched the streaming version of it because I called up the video stores, called up Cinephile and Videotheque.
You probably actually
Vidiot.
got them to buy it because you were calling them.
I asked them all, hey, do you guys have this or do you plan on getting it? Because it just came out. It came out in January, I think.
I'm pretty sure that I'm the reason that Videotheque has a copy of Den of Thieves on Blu-ray because I called so many times asking for it.
Yeah. Literally every single place I called said, why? And I was like, don't worry about it.
I just want it.
Yeah. And so I was like, none of them have it. We're not going to be able to watch this version of it. And so when we watched the movie, we watched it on streaming. We rented it on iTunes. But then today I was like, let me just go online and double check, look at Cinephile's library and see if it's been updated. And I looked on there and it said they had it. It said they got it in 2 days ago. So I drove my ass up there and I picked it up this morning because I wanted to check out one. There was a few sequences that I did want to look at with more clarity, and we can talk about those when we get into the movie.
You're not ready for the level of film nerd you have on this podcast with Jack.
He's in the right place
about watching Uncle Buck.
Oh my God.
I had time today, so I was like, it's got a commentary. I'll watch the commentary too. So yes, we did watch that version as well as the streaming.
And by we, he means him, and I kind of peeked in every once in a while.
Yeah.
Was there a notable difference between the streaming version and the disc that you saw?
There was. The 4K looks a million times better. I didn't have any real issues with the streaming version when we watched it, other than the few times when I really wanted to see some details in the background that I was looking for stuff. I was like, I guarantee you the 4K looks, I can see the details here. And I was right. It looks incredible. The only thing I did notice is that it actually is cropped in. I'm sure it's whatever I'm sure this Kino is the proper original aspect ratio, but the streaming version of it has a little more on the top and the bottom. The Kino's cropped in a little bit. So you're actually getting less image, by like a half an inch on the 4K, but otherwise looked pristine and much better than the streaming.
As you know, this movie came out in 89, so I was 1, and I'm not claiming to have seen it then. My point is that growing up right outside of Chicago, every time I put this movie on, it is the most true capture of what I remember childhood looking like.
Yeah.
It's wild, man. It's really weird to watch it sometimes. And I think this is one of the funniest, silliest, dumbest, awesomest movies ever. Like, it just kills me every time.
Yeah.
And every time I laugh at a new part or a different part, like the big jokes are so great, but there's just there's like little moments here and there throughout the whole thing that just are incredible.
Jack and Corey, did you have a relationship to this movie?
Uncle Buck was a definite favorite when I was a kid. We were a big John Candy fan household. And so I just I hadn't seen it in so long. Well, we'll talk about that. But we hadn't seen it as like adults in a very long time. And my childhood memory of it was like, this is the funniest movie I've ever seen. He's the funniest actor. So like, that's like my childhood memories of it for sure. Then I guess because of Letterboxd, we know this. At some point during the pandemic, we watched the movie and for some reason we did not like it. And I don't know why, but and I know, maybe it was like, the pandemic, we were in a dark place. I don't know why, but we had I'll let Jack talk about his review, but it was not great feelings. And I don't know, I truly don't understand why, because we watched this movie for this re-record and it was like, or this record. And I was like, yes, okay, this is what I remember from my childhood. We were laughing out loud. So much of it was funny. So much of it's like heartwarming too. Mm-hmm. The kids in this movie, like the little kids.
So good.
I mean, I can't even, they're so cute. I was like, this is my dream of what my children will be like. They're hilarious.
We did look at Macaulay Culkin a lot. And we were like, that's our son.
I know. I'm like, is this what our son's going to look like? And Gabby Hoffman, like, it's just crazy. They're so good. And it also, I really remembered the teenager girl who I don't know her name offhand.
Tia.
Tia is her character name. Yeah, I don't remember her. I'm not familiar with her as an actress.
I believe her name is actually Gene Kelly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You ever see a little movie called Top Gun Maverick?
Who's she in Maverick?
She plays Val Kilmer's wife in like 2 scenes of that movie.
Wow.
And I don't know if she has any lines.
Damn.
Yeah, she like says hi and that's it.
Wow.
And we as the audience are going, get out of the way. We want to get to Val. We want to get to Val.
Exactly.
It's the best part of the movie. We got to get to Val.
Well, I wanted to be her when I was a little kid. I thought she was the coolest. And this rewatch, I'm like, she's the meanest person on the face of the planet. But as a kid, I thought she was just so cool, so beautiful, and her style is still amazing. So yeah, that's my relationship.
Yeah, for me, Uncle Buck was not one of our childhood household movies. I had seen bits and pieces of it all through my life on TV. And I remember in pandemic looking for comedies to watch and thinking, I've never actually sat down and like watched Uncle Buck all the way through. And so I remember us putting it on and I remember not liking it. And I went to Letterboxd to see what I rated it. And guys, I rated it 1 star. Whoa. I really didn't like Uncle Buck.
Well, you didn't. You hated it.
I hated it.
You're Roger Ebert.
In the year 2020, I hated it. And I remember thinking too, back when we watched it, I don't really know what my feelings are totally about John Hughes. All of his movies. I think I've seen all of his movies, but I've never gotten into John Hughes. I just have seen him on TV and, they're kind of inescapable in a way. And I remember being like, maybe I don't even really like John Hughes that much. And one day I gotta explore that and just come up with an opinion one way or the other, because I didn't quite know where I stood, but I didn't do that. And so when you guys reached out and said, do y'all want to do Uncle Buck? Our first
you're like, oh shit,
mother,
oh fuck,
god damn it,
not Uncle Buck,
the one movie I hate.
But as we thought about it, it was like, I do kind of want to use this as an excuse to explore his filmography, rewatch stuff, and come up with an opinion on him, good or bad, on John Hughes, and then use that to kind of reevaluate Uncle Buck, and maybe we feel the same way, and maybe not. When we invite guests onto our podcast, we do exactly what you guys did. We don't really give them options. You did offer options if we wanted to, and we do the same thing, but we just reach out to people and we say, we want to do this movie. Would you be interested? And if they say no, or like, I don't really know about that movie, then we'll change it up. But more often than not, they're just like, sure. And sometimes they've never seen it. And so I didn't want to, I wanted to practice what we preach and be like, they want to do it. Let's do that movie. And so this week, I rewatched a bunch of John Hughes movies leading up to us watching Uncle Buck. And yeah, this, I don't know what I was thinking in 2020. Having rewatched a bunch of his movies and then watching Uncle Buck, I think it's one of his best movies. I loved Uncle Buck. I thought it was great.
So good.
I'm so grateful that we had this opportunity to watch it, because I think we would have been.
I would have gone my whole life being like, Uncle Buck sucks.
Oh man!
And
but
we
Uncle
think
Buck
Buck. We've been rewatching a bunch of John Hughes movies this week, preparing for this. And in my brain, like, John Hughes was huge to me when I was a kid. I was like, Breakfast Club and 16 Candles, I was obsessed with, and thought like, I thought I was cool for thinking this too. When I was, like 13, I was like, I like real movies, And so I have always been like, I'm a huge John Hughes fan. And we kind of realize, though, in a lot of these movies do not hold up in living in 2025. You're like, oh,
there's
God,
a lot of problematic
the
stuff
reason
in
why
this
Ferris Bueller plays on TV all the time, I feel like, and plays like at revival places is because it is not very problematic. Almost all of his other teen movies are like,
oh yeah,
cringe, like no, why?
Yeah.
And that was very interesting to read, because I would have been like, yeah, 16 Candles is one of my favorites. I love it. And then but I haven't watched it in 15, 20 years, and now I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, maybe I want to take that back. Maybe.
And we're pretty prepared for that. Like,
sure, of course.
We watch a lot of movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s all the time. And so like you just have to go in expecting that they were different times, and there's going to be those occasional moments that make you wince because they use a homophobic slur, or they say something kind of racist. And so I was already kind of bracing for that. And I remember 16 Candles having this sort of Asian stereotype character in there and this sort of happy-go-lucky date rape scenario at the end. I was prepared for those. What I wasn't prepared for with 16 Candles was that it's like wall to wall, like flagrant homophobia all through the movie from the protagonists, from Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall. Like they're just... It's as if it's just funny and fun the whole movie. And it's a movie that I realized, like, I wouldn't really want to watch this with a crowd, because it would be a thing where you'd be like, don't laugh at that. Don't let other people hear you laugh at that thing, because you might get in trouble for laughing at this movie. And it explains why you don't see that movie pop up as much, because I think it is, of all the ones, it's the most dated, even over Weird Science, which is already dancing in sort of problematic territory. It's not as bad to me as 16 Candles.
Mm-hmm.
Is 16 Candles the one with the like underwear stealing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's a bit rough.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also want to say, not without its charms. I mean, I get why it's beloved and why it was popular at the time. It is filled with a lot of charismatic performances and iconic sequences. I mean, my overall takeaway from this week is that I still don't think John Hughes is like one of my guys, but I fully appreciate him far more than I ever did before, in that he has changed culture in cinema.
Absolutely.
He is a huge inspiration to so many people. Also incredibly prolific too. I mean, his run as a director was less than 10 years.
It's insane.
And as a writer was only about 15 years.
His writing career?
His writing career.
So
now, if we were just talking about that, I'm
wild.
like, that's insane. Yeah.
Super prolific.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he's writing for women, men, people in their young adulthood, people in their middle ages, old people, babies. He wrote Baby's Day Out. He wrote Beethoven. He wrote for a fucking dog. He all
was
the Home
like
Alone,
the writer of our childhood.
Flubber.
I feel like
Dennis
in a lot
the
of
Menace,
ways.
Flubber. Yeah, he's writing for Goop. Okay, like this guy.
Flubber?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
He's brave. Most writers, most filmmakers, they can kind of write well about one type of person, and if it's a man, it's like, I write losers really well, or I write Italian guys really well, and you celebrate them for writing like one good female character in a supporting role. And I think John Hughes is like, fuck it, I'll write for anybody. He never really wrote for minorities very well, and I don't think we would want him to, based on his relationship to race in his movies. But he really pushed himself to explore humanity in a very broad scope, and I really appreciate that coming out of this week.
Is his most beloved movie Breakfast Club, do we think, or Ferris Bueller?
I think maybe Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
Right. But actually, Jack and I literally had this conversation this week because I was like, but the thing is, there are t-shirts right now at Urban Outfitters of Breakfast Club on them. Like that is like the most iconic imagery, I feel like, is probably the Breakfast Club poster.
Yeah.
But Ferris Bueller, I feel like, I don't know. It's a toss-up.
I think ultimately Ferris Bueller is more fun. You know, Breakfast Club is kind of dark at times and like sad and threatening. And Ferris Bueller is just fun. Its whole agenda is like the most fun day ever. And I think that is kind of in our culture maybe just takes it a little bit between those two.
Did you revisit Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
We sure did.
Yeah. And I like it.
That's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
That was also one that I was like, I don't remember if I like this movie or not. And then in the rewatch, we were cracking up. I was having a great time.
Yeah.
I think he's a weird filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know,
the ending of that movie is insane.
He's really hit or miss,
Nuts.
and he throws a lot of stuff at the wall. His movies are very vignette-y, where it's like there's not a lot of narrative momentum in his movies. It's kind of just like a series of scenes, and each scene has like a joke that it's building up to, or maybe a dramatic beat, but like they're not always connected to each other. It's like you're getting little flashes of ideas. And when those ideas are good and those scenes are funny, then, you know, if the hit ratio is good on those scenes, then the movie feels good. But he's not always like something like She's Having a Baby is just like a lot of scenes are trying to be funny and they're just duds. It's a lot of fantasy stuff. And there's like I felt like a lot of duds in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but it's overpowered by the really strong scenes in there. And so there's always kind of a weird tonal thing. And I would say Uncle Buck has some weird tonal stuff too, but again, it's mostly winners and less duds for me.
Yeah, it's almost like his National Lampoon, like how he writes is like kind of how you describe it. Yeah, it's like vignettes of like, you know, comedy moments, which I think, you know, applies, to how we think of holidays and how we eat. Like he captured the suburban life so
totally
well.
It's like looking at a photo book or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how he wrote, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, he wrote the National Lampoon Vacation. He wrote Christmas Vacation, Like this guy.
Insane. Like we all watch these movies
so wild
every year.
When I realized that, I was like, well, duh.
And Home Alone.
All the Home Alone. It's like, I thought maybe I didn't like John Hughes, but I'm like, he's had such an impact on my childhood that I'm not even aware of. I was obsessed with those movies. Even though he didn't direct them, he was the creative force behind them. Yeah, this was an eye-opening experience for me that I'm glad I was able to.
Yeah, what a project.
Kurt, did you grow up watching this movie?
Yeah, for sure. We would, when I was a kid, go up to a little cabin a lot, and this was part of our kind of VHS collection up there. And I've seen this, I think, one time as an adult prior to this, you know, preparing for this podcast. But I'm still triggered every time Buck goes to the party, the teenage party, and they keep cutting to like the scene in the bedroom with Bug. I'm still triggered by that. Like I can hear my mom being like, shut your eyes, shut your eyes.
Wow.
For a PG movie in 1989, there's a lot of like risque stuff in this.
For sure.
Well, I feel like it's one of his darkest movies. It's like watching it as an adult now, it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of darkness and kind of growing up or taking on responsibility. And
I mean, it is a movie in which a 40-year-old man threatens to kill a 15-year-old with a hatchet.
And I don't blame him at all.
Yeah, Bug.
Bug.
Little off the shoulder.
You're not a gnat, are you, Bug?
Oh, wait a minute. Is there some kind of connection there?
Also, the parents in this movie, there's a darkness in them. Speaking of dark parts of this movie, I was like, they're like the worst parents ever. It's like this uncle suddenly has a better connection with your children in one day than you do with them.
Yeah.
It's a movie where you could look at any character and be like, they might become a serial killer by the end of this movie. Like Macaulay Culkin might become a serial killer by the end of this movie. He wears a Travis Bickle looking jacket at one point. I was like, he's kind of creepy. Everybody, I agree. I think there is something sinister that sort of flows through the blood of this movie. And it's part of why I liked it this time too. And he has a little bit of that edge in all of his movies. There's always like a scene or two that strikes you as shocking in the context of what is otherwise sort of like a family movie or a happy-go-lucky. I mean, even Home Alone is incredibly violent. You know what I mean? So he had like a dark streak in him.
Macaulay Culkin is amazing in this movie.
You see why he got Home Alone because of this movie, I feel like.
One of the funniest, most cutting lines of all time is when Tia turns to him and she goes, "I have better things to do than watch you kids all day." And he goes, "Like what? Hang out with friends you don't have?"
The scene with him and John Candy where he's just asking him all of the questions. I was like, I could just watch a movie. Let's get a sequel of just the two of them. Getting in on hijinks, going on adventures.
Seriously. Yeah, those three together, Gabby Hoffman, Macaulay Culkin, and John Candy. Like that scene at the bed, like
that's my favorite sequence of the movie. I was so touched by that whole sequence.
The Mr. Sandman sequence.
Yes.
Yeah. When they all follow him and it's just like
so sweet.
It's just like dissolving between
just the whole night, and the dog follows too. It's just like perfect. So adorable.
Another John Hughes thing is that he is just great with music too. He's always got killer soundtracks, and he's so good at finding images to go with them that kind of burn them into your head. And this movie is no different. He's cooking on the soundtrack with this movie.
There's another incredible Macaulay line when he comes down the stairs. Tia's waiting in like the living room looking out the window, and she turns to him and he goes, "What are you doing? Waiting for your sex?"
It's so good.
I think there's some fun, a few fun filmmaking flourishes in here. Hughes isn't like the most visually sumptuous director, but there are a few things that I think he does interesting in this movie. I really like the beat when you hear the heartbeat and flatline of the father dying in the soundtrack. You never see this guy, you never meet him. You just get introduced to the fact that like he's on his deathbed and
he doesn't die.
What?
Yeah, he lives.
A heart attack. May as well be dead for how much we care about him in the movie.
I know, exactly.
But I just thought that was a fun and interesting way to like tell us that information rather than have somebody come up and just say it. You know, you hear it happen. It's cool.
Jack, it's so funny that you point that out because I was, again, as I said, I've watched this movie, 900 times. And as I was watching it last night, that scene really stuck out to me because of the exact same thing. I'm like, wow, they convey so much information in this heart beating into a flat line into the phone ringing that we don't need to see him in the hospital. It's so great that we don't.
Yeah.
And it's a really powerful moment of the movie, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
God, what does she say to her mom when she has to leave town?
If my entire family left me in Indiana, I'd have a heart attack.
I'd have a heart attack too.
It was so mean.
It's so funny. Like the whole movie, every scene with her, Corey was like, "God, she's such a bitch."
I was. She's so mean.
She said that like 5 or 6 times, and I was like, "Dang, Corey really does not like this girl."
And then girls are awful. And then scary.
By the end, when she's like when she's setting up Uncle Buck to look like he's cheating on Amy Madigan, I was like, she's such a bitch. I couldn't help it. It's like she truly is. Kurt, did you watch any of the commentaries on the Kino Lorber disc?
I did. Let me get his name. There are 2, right?
There's 2.
They're both from film historians. One is
Correct.
2 people together, and then I listened to the one with just the single voice.
I listened to the one with the 2 people.
Oh,
perfect,
great.
guys.
Oh, great. We really covered this.
It was it's film historians Alexandra Heller Nicholas and Josh Nelson, who I'm not familiar with them, but they sounded Australian to me. I'm not usually eager to listen to film historians talk about a movie. I'm usually there for the director commentaries, but I did find this one pretty interesting. They presented kind of a theme that I hadn't quite thought about where there's an angry woman theme in this movie. And they basically point out that like every female in the film is angsty and angry in some way. Obviously, the oldest daughter, Tia, is extremely angsty, but the mom is also angry, as well as Amy Madigan, Buck's girlfriend character. They're all kind of pissed off in the movie, and they pointed out that they don't necessarily think it was a purposeful thing on John Hughes's part, but that in the late 80s, there was a sentiment amongst women who were feeling very disenfranchised by the women's liberation movement. They felt like it hadn't gone as planned, basically, because it started in the 70s and there was a lot of excitement and hype for it. And then like the Reagan era kind of brought like the patriarchy back in a big way, and like almost like 1950s America kind of came back. And obviously John Hughes is kind of even a part of that too.
Sure.
And they were talking about how like he was tapping into what was a real feeling in 1989 of like women, especially like suburban women, being like mad at their lives and mad at the men in their lives. And that if you look at it, this movie is kind of a conversation between like a kind of a man-child trying to figure out how to be a better man in the face of all these women who are like pissed off at men in general.
Especially that vice principal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The most pissed off lady ever.
And I thought that was interesting. I hadn't, we were taking note of how, mean and angry Tia is, but I thought that was an interesting thread that they sort of pointed out.
Absolutely.
How he was kind of in touch with what was going on at the time, and whether he was trying to say something about it or not, he was like in conversation with it.
Well, that's what I was telling Kurt when we finished the movie. I was like, that Uncle Buck is so therapeutical for me because it really kind of speaks to like female, like the rage I felt as a teen and like kind of the situations I was going through or trying to navigate. There's something that hits me every time I watch this movie where I'm like, oh yeah, like it's like buried in there.
Yeah.
But it gets me every time. Like I kind of tear up just from like that memory of it.
Especially the anger towards her mom felt very like, oh, that's
I was
such
like, wow, I know that so well.
Yes. And I was so mean to my little brother too, like the way she is to them. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, we're all Tia for a little bit in our lives and we hate ourselves. But
well, I think one of the best things about the movie is that Amy Madigan's anger at Buck, Shanice, right? That's her name?
A name we've all heard a million times in our life.
Exactly.
Shanice.
God, honestly, that's such a Midwestern thing. Like the minute Shanice Kobolowski. Yeah, I grew up with like 100 people named that. But like she's so mad at him, and she's mad at the relationship because she's basically had to be his caregiver for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And you completely understand her anger.
Yeah.
It's not like she has this big change of heart. She chooses to help him because the kids are involved, but he is the one who has to do all the changing to make the relationship work.
Yes.
God, the scene when he calls her to tell her that he's not going to be able to come to work in the morning after he's promised many, many times. And it's just on John Candy, like trying to get a word in. And he's
especially because when they're in the bar before that, he goes, Shanice, if I could think of any excuse that you would possibly buy, I'd use it. And then it like smash cuts.
Yeah, another thing I liked about this viewing that I noticed that I obviously didn't notice when back in 2020 is the sort of vignette-y nature of this movie was an interesting way to format it for me in terms of Buck's story, because obviously the movie sort of sets up that he likes being a bachelor. He's kind of afraid to get married and afraid to have kids because he's going to sort of lose the fun in life. That's why he won't settle down with Amy Madigan. So obviously the situation where he's got to take care of these kids is going to like show him that he can be a good parent and that he can be a responsible adult and all this kind of stuff. But I noticed in the vignettes that like he's also sort of encountering versions of himself throughout the movie. Like we already mentioned Bug, the boyfriend, who he makes multiple references to of like, I was like that guy. I was like Bug, but even like the creep in the bowling alley and the clown, like the drunk clown who comes to the birthday party. He's like throughout the movie having to sort of like come face to face with versions of himself in almost like a Christmas Carol-y kind of way that I'd never thought about before, that made me like the movie, this viewing, so much more, because I was like, oh, I see how all these scenes are playing into the theme of this movie for Buck. His arc is being played out in these little vignettes rather than them, because I think the first time I watched it, I was just like, that scene with the drunk clown is random. That's probably what I thought, because it does kind of just come out of nowhere, and it lives in its own little piece. Like, nobody else interacts with the clown. It's just him at the door. But when I thought of it that way, I was like, oh, it actually like works well for me, as like he's punching a version of himself in the face to ultimately like mature by the end of the film.
Yeah.
I always forget about it, but there's that super sad and heartfelt scene towards the end when he's drunk after Shanice has dumped him pretty much. And he's like drinking on the couch with the dog.
With the dog? I was just about to bring that scene up. Yeah.
And he says, like, they used to always say, Buck, you got it figured out and you're doing your thing. You don't have a boss, blah, blah, blah. And he says, and no one says it anymore.
Oh, that line.
And then the camera just kind of holds on him.
Yeah.
It's brutal, man.
Yeah. Big time.
But yeah, Mike Starr plays the clown.
From Dumb and Dumber and
like,
a million other things. Yeah.
Wait,
Snake
God.
Eyes.
My ulcer.
His voice,
Isn't that crazy?
dude. His voice.
Yeah.
Again, this is a PG movie that makes like a reference to dildo jokes.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's
the
crazy.
scene when Laurie Metcalf first
which
comes
my
in.
other favorite character of the movie
Oh my
is
God.
Laurie
Incredible.
Metcalf.
When-
She is
Incredible.
comedy
Is she
gold.
Denise?
Perfect.
She's what's her name? It's not
The neighbor
Maurice?
across the street. Yeah.
Is it not Denise?
It's like Mora
Marcy.
or
Marcy.
something.
Marcy.
Marcy.
Marcy
Oh my
Dahlgren
God,
Frost.
Yeah. That's
She's-
oh my God, yeah.
She elevates this movie the second she walks on screen. She's so funny.
Yeah.
When we were watching it last night, Kurt was like, that's Laurie Metcalf. I was like, wait, no.
Yeah.
Because she has so much makeup on.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, that is Laurie. It's so crazy.
She's Chicago
She's like-
actress royalty, so of course she's in
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah.
She's so weird and good.
She was on a break from the first season of
Roseanne.
Oh,
and
really?
Wow.
They basically just like hit the
Tossed
lottery
her in.
by having her in this.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
good.
But that scene where she
So good.
walks in and she hears Buck, who is fighting with the washing machine.
Oh my God, that in a PG movie?
But what he's saying is like, I'm going to put my load in
Load
you,
in
whether
you."
you like it or not. And like, don't make me. And she thinks he's like assaulting somebody, I guess, because she gets like
Yeah.
pepper spray out. And one funny thing that happens in that sequence is the dog starts sneaking up behind her, and she's like bent over listening to the door, and we keep seeing the dog moving closer and closer to her butt. And then right as the dog gets up to her butt, it cuts to like a fisheye lens that's like a POV of her butt, and the dog licks the lens, and then she hops up and goes, woo! And it was like, is that a POV of her ass? Like her asshole POV as the dog walks up and licks it, because it's like all warped and distorted.
First in cinema history. First and
We
last.
need more of those in movies.
One thing I learned from the commentary that I thought was really sweet about John Hughes is we mentioned the scene with Mike Starr where he plays a drunk child's birthday party clown.
Yeah.
And Uncle Buck knocks him out in 2 hits. That's it. There was apparently a huge kind of fight sequence that they did outside after the 2 hits. Like there
Wow.
was an extended fight between him and Uncle Buck where the kids are like at the door watching it, cheering them on through the windows and stuff. But it got cut. And Hughes apparently would, if he ever cut a scene of an actor's from one of his films, he would give them like a work print transfer on VHS so they could use it to, audition and get work,
Right.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
which I thought was so sweet.
See, Kino should have tracked down Mike Starr and gotten that deleted scene and put
Yeah,
it on the damn
exactly.
Blu-ray.
Honestly, though,
The historian doing the commentary interviewed Mike Starr about it, and apparently it was misplaced, unfortunately.
No.
But,
No.
yeah.
Oh.
So they, at least he tried.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That
too.
that plays to something too. I have a book by Paul Hirsch, who is the editor for a lot of John Hughes movies. He didn't edit this movie, but he edited most of the other John Hughes movies. He started as De Palma's editor, which is why I had the book, because I'm such a huge De Palma head. I was like, I got to read his editor's book. And he has a lot of fascinating stuff to say about John Hughes. And one of the things is that for all of his movies, he was such a improviser. He loved to make actors improvise and do scenes, and he had so many ideas that he would shoot hours and hours and hours of footage for every scene. And so most of the time, like the assembly cuts of his movies were like 4 hours long. And they would often then go in and have to excise whole scenes in order to make the movies work. And so every movie has like tons of deleted scenes in them, which I think is also partly what makes the movies feel a little more like segmentized, like vignette-y.
Sure.
But it sounds like that was the case for that clown scene. And yeah, he talked a lot in that book just about like huge scenes that he would shoot for all of his movies that never saw the light of day just because they were like, we can't have 4 hour long movies.
The trailers on this Blu-ray, like we mentioned, and this was shot in the winter of like the first few months of 1989 and then released when? Like the summer?
Year.
Definitely the same year.
August.
It was quick. So
really quick.
They had a trailer out while they were still doing test screenings. So there's a ton of shit in the trailer.
Yeah, I noticed that. There's like a shot of him with all the cuts on his face.
Yeah, that's the one. That's like
and
a kind of famous one. Yeah.
Like a supermarket scene with Laurie Metcalf.
Yeah.
There's lines, when he's sort of being interrogated by his sister-in-law about kind of what he's not allowed to do while she's out of town that aren't in the movie.
I stopped smoking cigarettes. That's so great. It's like, I moved on to cigars.
His 5-year plan to quit tobacco.
Yeah.
That just strikes me as one of those, like, John Candy had this bit that he was like, we're going to work this into this scene somehow, where it's like, this is a joke that I've been telling on stage or doing with other characters. And it just fits that moment so perfectly.
And we haven't really talked about how fucking good John Candy is in this movie, but he's incredible.
Oh my God.
He's so good in this movie.
He's so funny.
And in the commentary, they did, speaking to how fast this movie was made, it sounds like they had such a good time making Planes, Trains, and Automobiles that he kind of specifically wrote this movie for John Candy as like I just want to work with this guy again. And, there's all these, like if you go on IMDb, there's like a million actors who they say were considered for the part of Uncle Buck. But in the commentary, they're like, that's bullshit. Like he wrote this movie for John Candy because he loved working with him and wanted to do something quick. I think he was coming off of She's Having a Baby, which had failed in the box office, like was not appreciated. He actually shot that before Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but it came out after. And so he was looking to sort of, he needed to like get the spark going again because he was sort of in a bad place. He was like, I got to do something with Candy and something that'll be fun to do and quick.
Candy's so amazing in Planes, Trains too. Like, of course he's hilarious, but the sympathy you feel for his characters, I think in this and that especially is like we don't need to spoil it, but like the turn that happens near the end of Planes, Trains with his character is just
the Shyamalan twist.
It just knocks you on your ass, I mean, it's his ability to do both is just
even this dude, the scene in which he puts the two kids in the car to go to the racetrack. And you're sitting there and you're like, please don't do this. This is a bad idea. Do not do this.
It's the moment where he's got to like fight himself in a movie where he's fighting versions of himself through other people. In that moment, he's got to fight his own self.
I think too, in his, obviously it's played for comedy, most of the scene, but the scene with the vice principal, like the second half of that scene when he gives her the speech of like, I don't want a 6-year-old who doesn't have imagination. Also, it's so like heartfelt and sweet that you're just like, I love this guy.
Go find a rat to chew that thing off your face.
What a line.
The whole bit though of him saying like, I'm Buck Melanoma. It's so funny.
Yes, old melanoma head's coming. He does one quotation marks. But you get the vibe in that scene that like when he was a kid, he got talked to that way. He got talked to like, straighten up and then get more serious. You got to take your education seriously, and so like his revolt against that really feels like rooted in himself, which is great. I love that part about it. And he like shakes his fist in glory as he walks down the hall afterward and then lights a cigar in the school.
so cool. He's so
him
good.
arriving in the little boy's bathroom is
his physical comedy in that whole sequence is outstanding, but he's so good at playing kind of like a goober without feeling pathetic. And I would say the same thing about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where it's like he's no doubt like a huge fuck up, but he's like never really feels it's somebody like Chris Farley, who I love, really played into how stupid I am. And I love that John Candy has like a confidence in everything he does. Like all through this movie, he's like doing the laundry the wrong way. He's like putting it in the microwave and stuff and breaking things but with a confidence of like, yeah, this is how I fucking do it. I'm getting it done. Yeah, totally. He's not like overwhelmed going like, what do I do? It's very much like, yeah, I don't know how this works. So I guess the microwave will dry these kinds of things, and he has it. And even in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, he has that whole speech where he's like, you might think I'm an idiot, but I like me and some other people like so me. Sweet. And, he just embodies that so well where it's like, you just gotta love him in everything that he does.
When he breaks the plate in Uncle Buck, that we scream,
it's unbreakable.
And they're like, oh, it's unbreakable.
The scene when the kids come down for breakfast the first morning and he's making a scramble with. But you're like, is he just a moron? Like, does he just like not know how to do this? But then it's revealed that this scramble filled with. Sam, I'll let you explain it, but like that's his special. Yeah, this is just what he does.
It's probably good as hell.
Yeah, truly, the line in cinema history that plays through my head more often than any other line is Macaulay Culkin coming downstairs the first morning, and he looks at Tia, and he looks back at Uncle Buck, and he puts his hand up to his mouth, and he goes, "He's cooking our garbage."
Oh, it's so funny.
I've worked in bars and restaurants for a very long time, and every time I walk past the kitchen and it smells like something intense, he's cooking our garbage.
He's cooking our garbage.
Yeah, and he says that because Buck is like sauteing peppers and onions into a scramble with sausage, and like he gives them half an orange, half a grapefruit, like 4 pieces of toast.
Yeah,
just huge, a huge plate. But also, let's talk about those pancakes.
Oh my god, those are like a dream. My dream come true.
With like the fence of sausage around it too, and
how big would you say they are? They're like,
I don't know, 3-foot pancake.
Like 3 foot.
The size of our table right behind us is like they're massive.
Exactly.
You should have.
I thought he was making a big pizza.
Seen the toast. Yeah.
We mentioned writing this role for John Candy specifically from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. They mentioned in the commentary track of this that he basically did the same thing for Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. From this movie. Working with him on this.
Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loving to work with him. And then there's the scene where Macaulay Culkin is afraid that burglars are coming to the door. In fact, it's just Shanice.
Yeah. How does that scene work for you guys? Because it confused me, and I am like, does it work?
It's weird.
When he lifts it up and sees the 3 guys, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always been
love
weird.
it.
I love it too.
Okay.
I think it's like such a little boy's perspective, like imagination.
That's what same.
I get it intellectually, but in the moment I was sort of like, what? It almost needs a sound because it's like quiet.
Yes.
Too,
There's
like
something about
it's just like a shot.
It's so scary,
and they're just like 3. It kind of looks like he just got 3 PAs to come sit. Like they don't honestly like look scary enough. I don't know. I can't tell you what's wrong with it, but something feels like it needs a punch up.
I liked it.
I love it. Corey and I are.
The bit, even outside of those 3 guys, though, where Shanice is like, she's centered in the door when she rings the doorbell.
Yeah.
And then every time she rings it, she leans to the side to look and see if she can see in like the little window next to the door. And so she's not in front of the mail slot when he opens it. And it just happens over and over. It's so good.
So good.
I do. Speaking of the sound design, though, I do appreciate that so much of this movie is quiet. Like so many, I feel like, especially comedies, they kind of bombard you with music and sound to transition you from scene to scene. There's like long stretches of this movie where you'll go like 3 or 4 scenes where jokes are happening and funny stuff, but it's like quiet. The sound design is kind of like easy going, and it's just like the room tone or like some birds chirping outside. And that's something I feel like was more common in the 80s. I want it back. Honestly, I like the sort of like relaxed vibe of just moving through scenes that have jokes in them without everything being so like boing, bang, bang in your face. Like I feel like they are nowadays.
It makes the music cues so much more emotional.
Definitely.
It's just like, I mean, the loudest noise is his car backfiring every time. Yeah.
A great car too. Great movie car.
When he drops her off at school for Tia at school for the first time, and she goes, "Has anybody ever embarrassed you in this way?" And he stops and thinks, but like the scene goes on for like slightly too long because he's thinking, and then he just goes, "No." It's like a really incredible moment.
When you asked about our relationship to Uncle Buck, I can't believe I forgot to say this. So a huge reason why this movie has lived so big in my family, and like we the whole time while we were watching this movie, we kept talking about how like we could hear my mom laughing watching this movie. And a big part of that is because, okay, we had a car when I was little kid, like up until like probably kindergarten, first grade, that did not smoke in the same way as this car, but everything else looked exactly like it. And the passenger side floor did not have a floor. Like you could see the road.
Like the Flintstones?
Yes,
like a
Flintstones car. There was like a section of it that straight up had a hole. We got a nicer car a little later on in life. We got a minivan, but there was a while that like that was my family car. And so that is also why Uncle Buck was like such like, whenever it came on laughing and my mom being like, "We had that car."
The charming, there are a lot of charming qualities of your Uncle Buck that are like your dad. Like your dad.
I know. that's the other thing. I kept seeing my dad in
He
Uncle
would
Buck.
cook pancakes that big to make you laugh. He would punch a drunk
My dad
clown.
loves a horse race.
Oh my God, the horse race obsession is your dad to a T.
Your dad's Buck.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, my dad is Buck.
You and me were in early stages of our relationship interrupted by your dad while we were making out. He would come bang on the car doors.
Jack
and
I
stuff.
are high school sweethearts, FYI. So we were together when we were like 17.
So yeah, your dad has Uncle Buck energy.
Corey, you've been around the DVD Blu-ray collection just forever.
Oh yeah.
Yes. You have very much so.
God.
And it was big when we started when we were
huge,
together,
yeah.
and she just watched it.
It's gone from, not to bring us back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this episode, but something I was curious, I wanted to ask you guys, was how you display your DVDs. Because we used to have them be like,
oh my God,
you know, the art piece of our living room. And now they take over a whole closet now.
Yeah.
But that's been, since we were 17, there's been lots of variations of how we display the DVDs.
We now kind of hide them basically because when you try to display a big DVD collection, it kind of destroys the feng shui of an entire. The room has to just be devoted to that. You can't put any other art up. It sucks all the energy out of it. So now I just hide them in a big closet, a very big customized.
It's a nice closet. You know, it's like a closet that you open it up and you're like, okay, I can see all the DVDs.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you got a full visual of everything.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
Like
me too.
Mine is a replication of the Criterion Closet,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
oh, incredible.
but it's all shitty Kinos.
You know, that's the other thing about Kinos too, is the spines are all just the black and white. And I know some people probably like that. I'm like, can I get a little bit
Not
of...
the slip sleeves though. That's why you got to get the slip sleeve.
Oh, did the
'cause
slip sleeves not do that? Okay.
They have the actual like just designed title.
Okay. Well, that makes
But
it better.
yeah,
then.
underneath that, it's no good.
Sorry to get us back onto that.
Are yours organized in a specific way?
Just alphabetical. Just alphabetical.
Okay.
It's the easiest. I've been tempted to genre.
We
Do
had
it?
a guest on recently. Well, that episode hasn't come out yet.
No, it'll come out.
But do you know Mark Rennie?
Comedian.
Mm-mm.
He's friends with Nick too, so I didn't know. But he was telling us the way that he does his DVD collection is by genre and like has it labeled. I'm like, oh, that is so cool. And I actually think
Like a video store
would be my ideal way to have it organized would be by genre. But that would be hard.
Mine are alphabetical by director in order of like release date within their filmography.
Wow.
Yeah, like those are how I
That's
do
cool.
my Blu-rays, and then my 4Ks are alphabetical.
Now, what do you do?
Insane.
I've thought about doing that, but with the directors, but then I'm like, I do have a number of ones where I just have one film from the director. Like, are those just interspersed alphabetically in the sort of director name thing?
Yeah, they're still alphabetical, but
Yeah.
it's just one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I do alphabetical by physical release studio. So like my Arrows are first.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Umbrella and Vinegar Syndrome are like at the
Yeah.
bottom. But it's done that way because I love how like a lot of the big box Arrow releases are just, they look really nice when they're stacked against one another.
Yeah, they look like books.
Yeah, but it is really becoming a giant pain in the ass to like have to reorder. I'm like, oh, sweet, I kept 3 movies that we have my unwatched pile. Both of our unwatched piles of movies we refer to as the shame pile. So if I watch 3 movies out of the shame pile and I really like them, I'm like, oh, I now have to reorganize the entire shelf to put these on, which is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Sick people.
I try to always keep like 4 movie gap in every shelf, but eventually you fill them and you just got to start, you got to take it from the bottom and move it all down. It sucks.
It sucks.
Jack, you're my spirit animal. I feel like I've gotten so much wisdom from you. Like, no more blind buying, 4 movie gap. I want to say one other fact about Uncle Buck that blew my mind from the commentary track. I'm not sure if this would have been in the other one, Jack, but they mention in it that I think that John Hughes was sort of adverse in general to shooting anything like on a Hollywood soundstage. I think he was much more interested in sticking around the locations.
Right.
So all the builds on this movie, which include presumably his interior apartment, the interior of the 2-story suburban house that a lot of this movie takes place in, and then the middle school interior, the entirety of that. So like the hallway, the bathroom with the little urinals, the principal's office, all of that stuff was built inside of local high school gymnasiums, either one or multiple.
Yeah.
So they treated them like a soundstage, but that stuff's
That's
all
awesome.
built.
Well, because if you have a school too, then you probably have you could do production offices and you could have all the, use all the little classrooms for stuff. It's honestly a brilliant idea.
I wonder if it's the same exterior of like where he picks Tia up every day or something.
I think
that's a good question. It may be. Yeah.
I think it is because, and I know that that's the same school from The Breakfast Club and also from maybe Ferris Bueller.
It does
in multiple
look like Ferris
John Hughes
Bueller.
movies.
I don't know if it is, but
it does.
It is reminiscent. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, an amazing little fact.
Oh, one thing I wanted to point out with when we watched it on streaming, there's like a scene where Buck is eating chips and watching TV, and there's a shot of the TV, and there's like news on, but above the TV, did you notice this? There's a VHS collection above the television in the house.
I didn't see that.
And I was like, oh, pause. I paused it. And Corey's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I got up and I was like, I can see that Jaws is one of the tapes. And I could see that Earthquake was one of the tapes. And I was like, damn it, I wish I had the 4K to like, I'm sure you could really see what these tapes are. Well, when I picked up this 4K, the first thing I did was scroll back to that scene and look at it. And you could make out most of them. There were a few that I couldn't figure out what they were, but he has Jaws up there. He has a movie called Rooster Cogburn, which is the sequel to True Grit. It's a John Wayne movie. He has Harry and the Hendersons, the Bigfoot movie with John Lithgow. The Sting, Earthquake, 1977, I think. Halloween 2.
Whoa.
The Secret of My Success, Dracula, Slapshot, and an old movie from the 50s called Holiday Inn. And they're all MCA Universal movies, which this movie is also. So all movies they had the rights to show. But it was interesting that a lot of those movies are either monster movies or movies about people who have to like take care of kids. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting little parallels to these kinds of things. And, you know, we talked about
a couple Chicago movies too.
And some Chicago stuff. Yeah. And yeah, Hughes just
Sting, Halloween is supposed to be Chicago.
Yeah, Haddonfield. And I could feel the slasher boom influence on this movie too. Like
with the music for sure.
Well, and multiple times they frame Uncle Buck to look like a slasher, especially with that drill at the end and stuff.
Hatchet.
He's scared. He's creepy in that kind of way, and it felt to me like this was like height of Friday the 13th, popularity, and I feel like a lot of people were trying to kind of emulate that or like parody that in their comedies, and so it made sense that stuff like Halloween 2 and Jaws are in this videotape collection.
Wow, I love that. That's amazing.
That's really fun.
I'm happy that you did the work.
Yeah, I did the research here.
Well, anything else on Uncle Buck?
This isn't really Uncle Buck, but where are you guys at with The Great Outdoors? Released a couple years after Buck.
Also Macaulay Culkin, also Candy.
I don't know if Macaulay's in it.
Is Macaulay not in Great Outdoors?
I don't think so. I know it's John Hughes wrote it. I don't think he directed
Isn't it Dan Aykroyd?
It's Dan Aykroyd.
It is Dan Aykroyd.
Yes.
I have not seen that movie since I was a kid. I can't even. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
It's good, gang.
Same.
I'm
is it good?
adding
Does it hold
to the
up?
list.
Yeah. There's a excuse me, it came out the year before Uncle Buck. It's 88.
Oh, okay.
Another Chicago story, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy. No Macaulay. It's Chris Young.
Annette Bening.
Oh, yeah, it is Annette Bening.
Okay, yeah.
But there's like an incredible bit where it keeps cutting to a guy in an open field getting struck by lightning. And it will make me laugh till the day I'm dead.
Oh, okay. I'm adding it to the list.
It's one that I definitely need to revisit. Again, it wasn't, I'm realizing too that we weren't a super big John Candy household.
Yeah.
The movies I think that he was in that had the most presence in my life were Spaceballs, Home Alone.
Home Alone for sure.
But that's a cameo.
Cool Runnings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Yeah, Cool Runnings I liked.
Cool Runnings
wasn't
was
obsessed
big.
with.
It's such a good one.
I remember his role in Vacation at the Wally World Park was very funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rescuers Down Under, I believe. Was it Fievel Goes West? Fievel Goes West. He plays he's the voice of like the big cat. Those were the big John Candy movies in my life. The other ones I just sort of saw on TV, this included. So yeah, I need to
Rookie of the Year. I forgot he was in Rookie of the Year too. Yes,
Another
he's like the
Chicago
announcer.
movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to get into Candy next. That'll be my next binge of like all the Candy movies.
Kino just dropped a movie called Summer Rental that I don't know anything about, but just the cover of it, I'm like, oh, I need to see this. It's him.
I don't know that one at all.
It's him on the cover, like holding a bunch of beach supplies, walking down the beach, and it just looks hilarious.
Sounds funny.
I believe the tagline is "Life's a beach."
Love it.
Sign me up,
Nice. I'm there.
They mentioned too in the commentary of this that he shows up at the end of National Lampoon's Vacation. Originally, they had shot a sequence where I guess like the Griswolds go to like the home of the CEO of Wally World, and that was like the big ending of the movie.
Oh.
And it didn't test well, so they switched it to being at the
Wally
amusement
World.
park.
Yeah.
And they needed a security guard.
Oh.
And that's how he ended up in that film, which is their first collaboration, him and John Hughes.
Fun.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah, because he was a big Second City guy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In Toronto, I think. He came up with like Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah.
Or
You can hear his
that.
Canadian come out a couple times in this movie too. He
Yeah.
says sorry. Sorry.
But it's, not to say that they wouldn't have found each other, but it's a kind of an interesting, almost
Yeah.
missed scenario.
Before we get off of it too, I do want to say that I find the end of this movie to be very effective. And I can't say that about most of John Hughes movies. Even the ones I like, I do feel like a lot of them kind of don't work for me right at the end of the movie. He always ends on a freeze frame. And this whole week, most of the time I laughed inappropriately at the freeze frames. This one, I didn't cry, but I kind of wanted to. Like, I think the end of this movie is very emotionally very well done. It's just him and Tia staring at each other and
So nice.
finally understanding each other, because it's really about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His whole movie is really like these two. They're on very similar tracks with each other. And so that it felt really good to like have that build up to the freeze frame with him waving at her.
Oh.
I really like the way
Get
this
that
movie
on some
ends.
t-shirts at Urban Outfitters.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yes.
I'll wear that.
I got choked up with the commentary on at that final frame.
Oh.
That's how well it works.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also, just before that, when the movie's winding down and it's Shanice and Tia in the kitchen talking, and Shanice kicks the door open and it misses him, and then he walks back and it hits him, and he's on the
So
ground.
good.
And he goes, "Hey, honey, coffee ready? Little thirsty.
And he like flies through the air after like that one frame of like
there's like a red frame.
Yeah.
A red
It's
flash.
amazing.
So great.
It's like such a cartoony
I love it.
choice.
Yeah.
To the Tia and Buck point at the very end, the car ride between the two of them is incredible, which really like
Yes.
elevates that last freeze frame
Yes.
into what it is. But
Totally.
that car ride where they finally understand one another and he apologizes to her while she's confiding in him. It's amazing. It's amazing.
She finally stops scowling after
Yes.
an hour and 15
Yeah.
minutes. It's like such a beautiful little relief.
And to back it up even just a little bit from that scene, when he's in the car
2
searching
hours later.
when he's in the car searching for her, there's the music that is playing. It's the Ira Newborn, I think, is the composer who did most of John Hughes stuff. And you even commented at the beginning of this movie, that little piano piece that opens the movie. You were like, "This is such John Hughes music," and it really is. It's like he did the music for most of his movies, but the piece that plays as he's driving around looking for her, I think is so fucking rad. It sounds like something out of the Safdie Brothers' Good Time. Like it has a really cool synthy eeriness to it because he doesn't know where she is, you know. I just really dug that.
And him walking, okay, one more little thing, him walking around the party looking for Tia, that is
my God.
cracking. All of his little
He has like
conversations.
a beard. Yeah.
Which
He's
is
like, yeah,
hats.
keep
Just
going,
like, hey.
keep partying.
Yeah.
Keep going, yeah.
And just to speak
So
to
funny.
Bug a little bit too, you know, we in the beginning of the movie we were sort of like, is he too hard on Bug? You know, does she have, when she fucks John Candy over and tells Amy Madigan that he's having an affair, and then he confronts her and she says, "How does it feel?" Now you know how it feels to have somebody like ruin your love life or something. I was sort of like, does she have kind of a point? Because Bug at that point hadn't done anything. Now, I'm not going to, this isn't a Justice for Bug thing because Bug does turn out to be a predator. But at that point, he was kind of just fucking with her.
But Uncle Buck
her
knew.
love. He does know. He sees, he knows
He saw him
what kind of a man
away.
Bug is.
What's his last name? Spray?
Yeah, that's I was trying to remember that line.
Yeah, he is a creep.
Without a doubt. But it is, I think that's what's so great about that conversation in the car is that while he knew about Bug, he acknowledges that he did not give him a fair shake.
Right.
Or Tia at that point.
Yeah.
The one thing that was mentioned in the commentary that I listened to is that the movie didn't really get very good reviews. Most people didn't like the movie when it came out, and Roger Ebert was a huge hater of it. And he thought the movie was
Sam hates Ebert.
he thought the movie was really mean-spirited and angry, and he particularly didn't like the sequence where they take Bug out into the woods and John Candy hits golf balls at him.
Which sounded so
I love
dumb,
that
though,
part.
that they were like,
It is dumb.
that he hates that scene because the reason was like, it's going to give kids ideas of what to do, like to hit people. And if you've ever been hit with a golf ball, it does hurt. It was like, wait, what? Is this really your critique?
It is an asinine thing to be upset about, but I will say there is something tonally strange about that whole sequence to me.
Sure.
Yeah, with the backlight on like
Yes.
Candy, like
It's continuing that sort of sadistic slasher vibe into it, and it feels like it's pushing it really far. I do like it, but it's strange.
It's strange, but Roger Ebert's wrong as fuck.
He's wrong.
I mean, you guys talked about on your Silent Night Deli Night episode where
Oh yeah,
it's not Ebert,
Gene-
but it's Siskel, and he's like,
Gene
their
Siskel.
blood money. He could take, they could take their blood money. And it's like, you're out of your mind, dude. It's a movie in which a guy dresses up like Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, yeah.
but yeah, I'm totally buck pilled. I'm a big buckhead now, and I don't know who I was in
Great.
2020. My brain must have been scrambled by all the COVID test labels.
we were all versions that we hate of ourselves in 2020.
If you were going to redo your Letterboxd review, what would you give it star-wise at this point?
I did it already. I gave it 3.5.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Love it.
Bug became a pastor the actor.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Wow.
Okay.
He's such a creep.
Did he do any more movies after this? I didn't look into his filmography. Like, did he?
I didn't either.
continue
I
to
believe
act
they
at all?
mentioned he was doing similar kind of vibe roles around this time.
Yeah,
so
that makes
presumably,
sense.
but
Yeah, he's got the vibe.
he reformed. What an honor it was to have you guys on our show.
Oh my
man,
gosh,
it's an honor
thank
to be
you.
here.
This
This
was
was
so
so
much
fun.
So fun.
I'm so glad we could, give you guys an excuse to revisit this
Me
movie.
too.
Me too. Yeah,
Especially
I mean, it wouldn't
changing
have happened.
opinion on this movie.
Majorly. You guys are changing lives here, okay?
And it just goes to
Go
show,
buy
folks,
yourself another 4K to celebrate.
Thanks so much, Tori. You're right.
And yeah, for people listening, this is why you rewatch stuff. This is why you
Truly.
revisit. It's important. I know so many people who are like, why would I watch? I've already seen it. Who don't rewatch movies at all. And I'm like, you're nuts. You're missing out on valuable entertainment, for one thing. It feels good to rewatch things. And you never know, you evolve with the films.
Yeah.
It's true.
Corey, we don't have time now, but I do want to say before you guys leave that I listened to your episode on Child's Play and discovered that you're a Josh Hartnett head,
Oh,
which I
my
talk
God.
about constantly on the
Wow.
show. So
Wow. Please have me back just to talk about Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
you and me, 4 hours.
The deep levels I could go are disturbing. So I happily anytime.
Where can people find your show?
You can find us if you search any, we're on all the podcast platforms. Just search Cinema Possessed. You can find us on social media at Cinema Possessed Pod. Yeah.
That's where you can find us.
The show's fantastic. You guys rule. Thank you again.
Thank you. You guys
guys.
do. This was such a
Thank you
blast.
so much.
And we want to have you guys on our pod
Yes.
soon.
Please. The invite's
For
coming.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll be there whenever.
We'll talk O.
Yeah.
No.
Hey. Hey.
I like that.
Out of print Blu-ray. I've got it.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Okay, Sam, before we go, it's time to put wishes out into the physical media universe for titles on formats that do not yet exist. Let's get witchy. I wish for a 4K box set of the 3 Austin Powers movies.
I wish for a Kino Lorber 4K of The Great Outdoors, which I discussed earlier. I almost started chanting The Great Outdoors. Which is not the chant that we do on this show.
That might make it happen sooner.
Are there any 4Ks of the Austin Power movies?
There is, Sam. It comes from the UK, appropriately enough. I don't know who put it out, but the first one is available. However, on Orbit DVD, our beloved OrbitDVD.com, there is a note attached to all of their in-stock Austin Powers International Man of Mystery 4Ks. The note says, slips, as in slip sleeves, are silverboard. There are some issue with the silver showing through / light wear.
Oh.
So these slips might be kind of fucked, and they might be fine. Will it stop me from buying the first one? Probably not. But I was kind of hoping that we could get past this problem by a release that included all 3 films.
Sure. That's a fair assumption.
I was on set the other day and Austin Powers came up and someone mentioned the character Ivana Humpalot and I pissed my pants laughing. So I've basically just been really jonesing for some Austin Powers. lately. Sam, as I mentioned, once upon a time, a young Marty and his family would go to their little cabin on a lake in Minnesota. And at that cabin, we had a hutch with some VHSs in it. And right next to Uncle Buck, one may have found The Great Outdoors.
I mean, what a 1-2 punch. It is an incredible, especially as both Midwestern boys. What a fun... John Candy, who is Canadian, seems to exist as a Chicago person through and through in my brain.
Truly.
What a fun double feature of the two of those. This really seems right up Kino's alley. I'm really surprised we haven't gotten an announcement of this yet, but maybe right around the corner.
It won't surprise me one bit.
I mean, let's hope. Dan Aykroyd, who has never really done much for me, gives an incredible performance as like the straight guy,
Yeah.
like piece of shit brother.
His kids, Kim and Wendy.
I mean, truly. I'm just that guy out in the field who keeps getting struck by lightning, baby.
A classic. Here's hoping.
They've done other John Candy movies. We loved the Uncle Buck release. Give us more.
Yes, please. Okay, that is it for another episode of Physical Therapy. Thank you all very much for listening. A huge thank you to Jack and Corey for coming on our podcast. What excellent guests they are. Please be sure to check out Cinema Possessed anywhere you can find podcasts. A big thank you to Patrick Laban for our incredible music. Thank you to Kimberly, wherever the fuck she is in the world right now.
I'd also want to say thank you to everybody for bearing with us. We had a very busy April and end of March, so thanks for sticking around. We are coming back. As Kurt mentioned earlier, we got plenty of episodes planned out.
Yes, thank you all very much. We will be back next week, and we will see you then.